She looked like just another quiet elderly woman flying alone. First class. Polite, soft-spoken, barely noticeable as she settled into seat 1A, her silver hair tied neatly back, her pale blue blouse carefully ironed. But when she asked for a simple glass of water before takeoff, the flight attendant, Cassandra, sharp uniform, sharper eyes, smirked, dismissed her, and then, unthinkable, Cassandra returned, not with kindness, but with contempt, culminating in a flick of her wrist that sent the water cup flying, soaking Margaret's blouse. A gasp, then silence. Passengers averted their eyes. Clue looked away, but behind Margaret, obscured by noise-canceling headphones and a tablet, sat her son, the man whose tech empire kept this very airline aloft. And the moment he lowered those headphones, the quiet hum of the cabin fractured. Everything was about to change. Margaret had stepped into the cabin slowly, clutching the thin strap of her worn leather purse. She offered a warm, almost invisible smile to the attendant at the door, whispering, "Thank you, dear," before finding her seat. She settled by the window, movements quiet, respectful, folding her hands over her purse, patiently waiting. Behind her, in 1B, Brandon Walker scrolled impassively through his tablet. Charcoal sweater, dark jeans, blending in. Most wouldn't recognize the tech mogul without the usual entourage. No one knew the unassuming woman in 1A was his mother. A few minutes passed. The dry cabin air tickled Margaret's throat. She pressed a cold button. A delay. Then Cassandra appeared, smile tight, radiating impatience. "Yes." Margaret's voice was soft. "Would it be possible to have a glass of water, please?" Cassandra scanned her, a quick, dismissive inventory. "We haven't even taken off yet. You'll have to wait." She toned, gone before Margaret could reply. Margaret didn't protest. She just looked down at her hands, waiting. Moments later, Cassandra glided down the aisle, beaming, offering champagne to a man in 2C, laughing softly. She sailed right past Margaret's row. No eye contact. Nothing. Margaret, feeling increasingly parched, pressed a button again. Cassandra stopped, smile vanishing. "I told you," she snapped, voice sharp enough to turn heads nearby. "Wait like everyone else." "I'm sorry," Margaret murmured, lowering her eyes. "I just haven't had anything to drink today. That's all." Cassandra leaned in slightly, voice dripping condescension. "You act like you've never flown first class before." A ripple of discomfort went through the nearby seats. A newspaper lowered. Conversations paused. Margaret said nothing, just gave a slow, almost imperceptible nod. Cassandra sighed dramatically, placing a small, half-filled plastic cup on the tray table, carelessly. It tilted, water slushing onto Margaret's lap. Margaret gasped quietly, fumbling for a napkin, cheeks flushed, hands trembling slightly as she tried to dab at her blouse. And then, the unthinkable. Cassandra, instead of apologizing, reached down and smacked the cup clean off the tray. It clattered to the floor, rolling under the seat. That's when Brandon took off his headphones. He stood, turning slowly toward the aisle. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the strained silence like steel. "Did you just slap my mother's drink out of her hand?" Everyone froze. Whispers died. Cassandra's face drained of color. Margaret didn't turn, just sat rigidly, staring out the window, fighting the sting in her eyes. Brandon's gaze remained locked on Cassandra. His voice stayed level, dangerously calm. "I asked you a question." Cassandra stammered, taking a step back. I didn't know she was your mother." "That's not what I asked." Brandon didn't move. "Did you just knock her drink away?" "Sir, it was an accident. There was a lot going on." "You weren't too busy to laugh with a man in 2C, Brandon countered, still calm. "But when she asked for water, you gave her attitude. Then you humiliated her. And now you're lying." Cassandra glanced around helplessly, face burning. "So, I didn't mean." "You meant everything you did," Brandon interrupted, voice unwavering. "You judged her the moment she walked on. You assumed she didn't belong. You thought no one would care because she's quiet, older, dressed simply." He paused. "You were wrong." Cassandra tried again, desperate. If there's been a misunderstanding, I can move her. She's not moving. Then I'll get her a fresh drink. I'll fix this. Brandon shook his head slowly, the finality chilling. You already broke it. He pulled out his phone. The screen illuminated his intent face as he typed a short, sharp message. Then, silence. He put the phone away. Cassandra stood frozen for another beat, then turned and fled toward the galley, disappearing behind the curtain. The spell broke. Passengers exchanged wide-eyed, nervous glances. Whispers erupted. The atmosphere in first class had irrevocably shifted. Brandon sat, leaning forward, placing a gentle hand on his mother's shoulder. Margaret turned slightly, pain swimming in her eyes. He gave a small nod, voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. It's okay, Mom. I'm handling it. And he was. The message he'd sent was already rocketing through corporate channels. Wheels were turning. Consequences were spooling up. Behind the cockpit door, the in-flight phone buzzed urgently. The co-pilot listened, brow furrowing. Corporate, he told the captain, voice tight. Mr. Walker is on board. First class. Incident involving his mother. The captain paled slightly. Brandon Walker. The name resonated with quiet, immense power, the kind that could ground airlines, not just flights. He has contacted the executive office, the co-pilot added. They want a full report. Immediately. The executive shifted. We understand. We're committed to making things right. Brandon leaned in. Then listen. This isn't about one employee. It's about a culture that judges people by their clothes, not their ticket. I don't want apologies. I want action. Mandatory bias training. Independent complaint review. A formal report to shareholders detailing this incident and the steps you're taking. The executive hesitated. That's very public. I'll make it public myself, Brandon stated flatly, holding up his phone, a drafted press release visible. Handle this internally with real accountability, or we handle it the other way. The executive swallowed, shaken. You'll have it. In writing. 48 hours. Brandon gave a single nod. Then we're done. He turned to Margaret. Mom. She rose. Just needed a moment to breathe. To the executive, she said clearly, just make sure the next woman who looks like me doesn't live through what I did today. Then she walked out with her son, quiet power radiating from her. In the black SUV gliding away from the terminal, silence settled. Margaret watched the city lights blur past. Brandon finally broke the quiet. You're smiling. She turned slightly, thinking about how far we've come, and how far we still have to go. She recounted a past slight, a nurse ignoring her in a waiting room. I told your father it wasn't worth the trouble, she said. But today was worth it. You spoke up. And this time, people listened. He looked at her, emotion thick in his voice. I couldn't stay quiet, Mom. I know, she said softly, and I should have spoken louder myself all those years. You just needed people to listen better, he replied. They rode on. Think she'll get her job back? Margaret asked later. Brandon paused. I don't know. If she learns, if she changes, maybe she deserves a second chance. My job was to make sure she understood. Margaret nodded. Then you've done enough. Back at Brandon's quiet, modern home, they sat in the living room. Hot tea warmed Margaret's hands. I still can't believe it happened, Brandon mused. I can, Margaret replied simply. This isn't new, Brandon. You just saw it today. You forgot how the rest of us live when we don't carry your last name. He absorbed the truth in her words. A message arrived, Cassandra's written apology. Brandon read it silently. Honest? Margaret asked. Yes, he admitted. So what now? He looked at his mother, her quiet strength anchoring him. Forgiveness isn't always for them, she said softly. Sometimes it's for us. I don't want to carry this. I just want her changed. Brandon placed the phone face down. Not tonight, he decided. Let her sit with it. They sat in the quiet peace of the evening, the storm over, its echo resonating with the weight of dignity defended and a lesson learned not just by one, but by many. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell only on Alina.